And a good Monday evening, everybody. I hope you had a lovely Super Bowl Sunday. Welcome to episode number 5 of Mondays with the Mayor. Joining us, as he does every other Monday, is the Mayor of Cape Coral, the city of Cape Coral, John Gunter. John, how are you? Mayor, how are you?
Pretty good today. How about you?
Doing great, doing great. Did you enjoy the game? Did you watch the game last night?
Yes, I did actually. It wasn't one of those nail biting games, but
Right.
it's always good to watch the Super Bowl.
Did you get up and dance during Bad Bunny?
No, we actually watched the other one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, last Friday was a very busy day. It's always a busy day for the city council, and I didn't know you were going to be at Sage on 47th because I know there was a busy ribbon cutting before that. But All Abilities Play was able to raise $2,800 at that event, and I know the city is hopefully planning to put some of that playground equipment at Lake Mead Park, I believe. Do you recall what the financial contribution the city is committing to that is?
No, I don't remember exactly what the dollar amount was, but I know that our goal was to try to do something there at that particular park. I'd like to be able to see that across the finish line, once we get that park open.
And they did raise, like I said, just under $3,000, but they need quite a bit of money. They need a lot of fundraising. It's expensive for that kind of playground equipment.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think it's for a good cause. I stopped by there not only to show my support, but I also made a contribution as well.
Nice. So earlier on in the day, there was a ribbon cutting at Bimini East. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how that went and how important you think that development is for the city?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great project. Definitely is revitalizing, our South Cape area. I think when we walk through, that facility, of course, you got Lee Health on the one side, which brings additional healthcare services to our city that are as close here for our residents. They don't have to travel across the bridge for some of those services. So anytime you got healthcare expansion, that's always a good thing. And then you have the project, I think 198 multifamily units. We walked through a few of those after the groundbreaking, went up at the rooftop. They have a rooftop pool up there with a beautiful view of overlooking the Bimini Basin. So that was an incredible view up there. And so I think it's a great project, all the way around.
Somebody was saying to me they think that's the best view, one of the best views in all of Cape Coral to see what you're able to see up there.
Yeah, actually, I took a picture. Maybe I'll go ahead and post that, and maybe you can get that out there.
Yeah,
but it's a beautiful view looking right out at the Bimini.
So I'm guessing you saw the story. The Florida CEO was saying that they were going to send the state down to the different municipalities to try and slash the budgets because the municipalities are not hungry for money. They're not short of money, and this was all related to the property tax reform that we guess is coming down at some point. Did you hear that? And do you think have they come to Cape Coral yet?
Yeah, I did hear that just kind of generally out there. I know they haven't reached out to Cape Coral at all, but if he wants to come on down, then we'll definitely meet with him and glad to go through our budget and answer any questions he might have.
Does the state not think that the municipality? He said they think they could find billions of dollars to make this the property tax reform work. Does the state not think the municipalities would cut budgets or cut the taxes if they couldn't cut it, and that they need the state to come down and do it for them?
Yeah, the problem with the state a lot of times, you might have a few bad actors out there in the state. You see this with the laws that sometimes are passed in the legislation. You'll have a few bad actors, so they do kind of a blanket approach to try to help, a specific issue. So do I think there could be some bad actors out there somewhere in the state between the 67 counties and the 411 cities? There probably is. But I don't think it's widespread. And I think if he wanted to come on down to Cape Coral, we'd definitely sit down with him.
And have you heard anything new from any of the state reps about where this thing is headed? Will it come back in this session? Will the governor call a special session? Anything new at all?
About the property taxes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still discussing it. We actually got an update earlier this morning on that. And from when we did our workshop on January 29th and had a discussion as a council, basically no change. We're exactly where we were then. The House and the Senate still working through that process. They still have to, once each, the House and the Senate basically come up with an ideal, then they'll have to get together and try to move that ideal collectively forward. And that hasn't happened yet.
So are they leaning toward homesteaded properties, doing away with the property tax on homesteaded properties? Is that the way it seems like it's headed?
Yeah, I mean, when I was up in Tallahassee a week or so ago, it sounded like the easiest method in order to do something would be increase the homestead exemption. I don't think you're going to see 100%, do away with property taxes altogether. I don't think you're going to see that. I think that it would be too difficult to find other types of taxing mechanisms in order to try to fund some of those shortfalls that we would have if we did that. Like I told you before, in our city, we bring in about 157 million in ad valorem tax and 103 millions for public safety. So if you did away with ad valorem tax, well, how are we going to come up with the 103 million? So, but I do see possibly, and this was one of the scenarios that was presented to council. If say the homestead exemption went from 50,000 to 100,000 to 150, we've seen some models what that looks like. So we'll just have to still sit back and see if they can come to a common recommendation between the House and the Senate and move that forward.
Do you think the city is prepared, if there's significant property tax reform, to be able to come up with enough revenue where services wouldn't be cut?
When you look at I think it really all depends. We've already forecasted in our, our future budgets for some reduction. We did hear that with our, we had our budget discussions here, a week or two ago. So we did prepare for maybe some additional homestead exemption, maybe if it goes from 50 to 100. But if it's something more than that and more substantial, no, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. And that's one of the things that I said during our budget discussions. This is the big elephant in the room that we don't know. And we can plan for a budget now for the next several months, but hopefully by the time the legislative session ends, we'll kind of know the direction that they're trying to push forward. And then we can maybe adjust as we have future discussions on our budget for FY27.
Speaking about the budget, there seems to be some concern, not a lot, some concern about how much money is carried over from year to year. Can you kind of explain that so that everyone understands it in the most, like for me, the simplest terms, so everybody understands that this is part of the process? I know the city manager tried to explain it at the last meeting. Can you kind of go, the short version of why it's done like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, we started our budget discussion in January. We have all the way till September, but usually by about August, we know exactly the direction that we're going to be approving in September. So we basically forecast what our revenues and expenses are going to be. And we try to do that conservatively. The last thing that we want to do is to have a deficit at the end of the year where we're going to have to scurry around and try to find more money somewhere else. So we do it conservatively. Like I had mentioned, in our budget discussion, we have a $1.4 billion budget. We had $29 million left over. That's about 2.07% of the overall budget. But more importantly, I think it's important that end of the year reserve that we finally figure out what it is. We were looking at FY25 budget to see how good that we did. We had 29 million, but what nobody really mentioned, we had 11 million the year before. So what we did was we carried the 11 million forward. So we had actually 18 million that we had left over that we didn't spend or utilize. And we added that to the 11 to get to 29. So this is a cumulative number that each and every year, if you go back to the year before the 11 million, at the end of FY23, we only had about $11,651 left over. A lot of that had to do because of Hurricane Ian that hit in September of 22, and we were utilizing most of our reserves in order to pay for debris pickup. So it's a very moving number that each and every year it either increases or decreases to see where our revenue balance is at the end of the year. So it's kind of like doing your checkbook. Every month we all know what our expenses are, hopefully, and we try to forecast that. We know what our salaries are that we bring in. We got to try to make sure we got enough money through the months. Some of the unforeseen, whether your car breaks down, your air conditioner blows up. I mean, there could be some unforeseen expenses. So at the end of the year, personally, we kind of look at how much money we got left over, especially if you're trying to save a little bit each month. Some people are able to do that. Some people are not. So it's very similar process.
Okay. And so did the council give the staff the direction to come up with a budget based on the current millage rate or something different than what you have now?
No, if you recall, the staff came in at 5.34 is what they recommended how we move forward in the beginning process with our budget discussions. But as a council, we direct them staff to stay status quo with our millage rate, which is 5.14, our 7% public service tax, and our 81% that we have at our fire service assessment. So we told them to basically hold the course of where we are now and build your budget using those numbers. And then we'll see either what they're going to, cut or how they are going to move the monies around. And then we can decide as a council after that on any items that we may want to add to the budget. We know we have the police department's adding, they would like to add 25 police officers. We know the fire department has some needs. Of course, other departments, we haven't seen what their asks are yet. That'll be a little further down the road in the process. So we'll have to look at all that at a later time and then see if we need to adjust either by cutting the numbers, using some of our revenues, whether it's going to be some of these asks could be debt, apply debt towards some of our capital improvement projects. This is still a very volatile discussion and a lot of moving parts.
Gotcha. Two real quick questions about the state again before we leave Tallahassee. Anything new on the building audit that was started on the state?
No, haven't heard anything on that, and they haven't reached out to us yet for a meeting. So, it's just a wait and see for us. Nothing that we're doing. We've already got, 158 pages that I think we had gotten together on some information that we feel that they'll either ask for or they'll need. So we've already gotten that together, and we're just waiting for the phone call.
And lastly, what's the status of the 3 funding requests that you have made to the state?
Yeah, there were 3 state appropriations. One was for water, sewer, and irrigation extension. We requested $10 million to try to help offset those connection fees. The road improvements for Northeast 24th Avenue, that was a $5 million request. The water, sewer, and irrigation appropriation request, that one was for $10 million. And then the last one was for a Cape Coral Rapid Emergency Response Vehicle. That one was a $300,000 request. So those particular items, usually don't hear about those until the latter part of the legislative session. So, they'll still be open for discussion, with the representatives and the senators, and probably won't hear anything on those particular projects towards the latter part of the legislative session.
And if the delegation pushes them forward, then the Senate and the House have to approve it, and then you have to hope that the governor doesn't line item veto any of them. Is that how it works?
Yes, exactly. Our delegation will advocate for them. They'll have to go through committees, and they'll be put in the same pot of all the asks from all the other counties and municipalities. And then at some point, they'll probably prioritize the projects. Not all of them make it through. We've been very fortunate, over the years. And, but, we understand that this legislative session, we've already been told, they're really going to be tightening the belt on state appropriations. So, that's why we only asked for 3. And the probability of getting all 3 is probably slim. But we'll ask and see which ones will hopefully get approved.
Okay, so the next thing coming up, big issue coming up is Wednesday. There's going to be a presentation from the attorney on moving to a strong mayor from the way the government is set up now. What kind of a presentation are you expecting to see?
Yeah, basically, we'll probably see exactly how that wording will be on a referendum, and how that structure and how that would be implemented. That'll probably be a little bit in the presentation, how we would, legally, how we would move forward with that. And of course, it's going to, we'll have a discussion, and at some point it's got to come back as as an ordinance to put it on for an actual referendum. So Wednesday isn't the vote. It's just providing a presentation, some backup material, see what what council collectively wants to do about moving that forward, maybe changing some of the wording. So pretty much everything's on the table for discussion.
And this would, if the council and Councilwoman Lehman has already changed her mind about it, if the council approves it, it still has to go to the voters for a majority approval from the voters, correct?
Exactly. This is something that 100% will be decided by the voters. The only deciding factor that council has is if we move it forward to a referendum. That's the only thing that we as a city council can decide on, whether it's actually on a referendum or not.
And I forgot, did you vote to move it forward? I forgot what the total vote was.
Yeah, it was 5-3 to at least further the discussion,
Gotcha.
to bring it back. That's what the vote was, so that's what Wednesday's meeting is about.
Is there any other, before we get to the other topics, is there any other issue on the 11th Committee of the Whole meeting that people should keep a close eye on? I know there's a list of things, but is there something that pops out other than this item?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the bigger items that could affect, the community as a whole the most, is that, because you're talking about a whole different style of form of government. So that's probably the big topic that, that's on the agenda. There are some other discussions, but nothing as impactful as that probably.
Yeah, and one of the things that has to take place if it makes it to November is some kind of education, because, I mean, the city council right now could fire the city manager because they don't like the color of his tie. But if somebody gets elected into that position, no matter what, it's 4 years, at least 4 years, unless he does something criminal and the governor removes him or something like that. That's how complicated that change is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's, in my opinion, there's pros and cons with both forms of government. You just got to see which one, is the best suited for our community at this time. And, some people may decide that the strong mayor form of government, and like I told you before, one of our previous shows, I'm a no vote for that. I believe at some point our city may want to entertain a possible strong mayor. But that's me personally. When I go to the voting polls, that's how I'll vote, if it does move forward. So, I think it sometime later on, maybe when we're closer to build out, that's when you see most of the strong mayor form of governments. That's your Miamis, your Orlandos, Tampa, those larger cities. We just might not be there, but that's my personal opinion.
Gotcha. So let's talk about the yacht club a little bit, the everyone's favorite topic in Cape Coral. And first, can you give everyone an update on where we are with the food trucks before we get to the larger issue? The food trucks that
the food trucks request for proposals are already out there. They are due back and will close at the end of business on February 24th.
Okay.
And then they should be, I believe they're going to be opened on the process opened on February 3rd. It'll end on February 24th. Shortly thereafter, the staff will do a selection advisory committee, take a look, and then make a recommendation from there. So hopefully we can get that done fairly quickly, so we can get the food trucks down there and serving the community.
And so people understand the reason there are no food trucks there now is because the Kearns Group had until the end of the year to decide what they wanted to do with a food truck, or if they wanted to put a food truck in. And then, you can't just call up a food truck if you're the government and say, can you come in and drop your truck over at the yacht club, because you have to go unfortunately, you have to go through a long and sometimes slow process so that it doesn't look like somebody's getting favored treatment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Kearns Group, they had until December 30th in their contract agreement to let us know if they wanted to do it. They basically had the first right of refusal. They had the first right to go in and sell, food through food trucks or whatever other mechanism. And they didn't let us know until at the very end. So, I don't know if they were contemplating it and seeing exactly what would benefit them, but for whatever reason, they notified us by the December 30th, like was required. So then that's when we had to, basically draft a request for a proposal, get that out there. Unfortunately, the city has to abide by the procurement laws of the state. I saw a few people post on social media, well, I could just call tomorrow and get a food truck down there. I could too. Unfortunately, the city can't do that. There's a process that we must follow by law, and that's exactly what we're doing. That's why sometimes it takes longer for government. I've always said this, in my business, if I want to get something changed, I'll do it today. In government, there's a process, and we have to make sure we abide by that process.
Right. And have the boathouse folks given you a groundbreaking date yet? Do they know? I know they're still going through permitting and design and things like that.
Yeah, I know that they still have not. The last I had heard that they still have not applied for the actual permit with the architectural drawings and their engineering. So they haven't applied for it yet. But I know the city is eagerly waiting, and we do have a expedited permitting process that they could elect to do. It costs a little more, but we want to get this permit issued just like they do, so they can start construction and we can get that place open for our residents to enjoy again.
On the pier, I know. Are we still? I get confused about where we are with the pier. Did the Army Corps of Engineers deliver the permits yet?
No, not on the pier. We got, of course, all the permits we need for the, for the seawalls and the docks.
Right.
So that's all been approved. Actually, we just recently, I believe last week, we issued a limited notice to proceed to the contractor. Last week, they got a full notice to proceed. So that's when exactly they have so many days to do the project. So that's when that time clock starts. So they received that full notice to proceed. I believe it was last week.
So will those pieces of the project begin even before the pier, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the seawalls are going
Yeah,
in.
they're already mobilizing down there. If you go down there, they got excavators. Again, they just got their full notice to proceed. So we see, demolition of the docks and the existing seawall should be starting here anytime.
And I hear people talk about improving the beach. Is there going to be beach renourishment there too, or is that are they just talking overall the whole?
Now we're going to be part of the demolition is removing the ramps that are there now and enlarging the beach further down where those ramps are. And then while we're doing that, we'll look at the rest of the beach and see if anything needs to be done or any type of renourishment needs to take place.
Gotcha. And at the last council meeting, there was a heated discussion, or no, I shouldn't say heated, but there was a discussion about whether or not the city should also, at the same time as you're waiting for these requests for information to come back, to put together a plan to maybe build things if nobody sends anything back. So it's kind of like a dual track thing, but it didn't pass, and you didn't think that was a good idea either. Why so?
Well, initially we thought it was a 60-day RFI process, and we learned afterwards it's actually only 30 days. It'll expire at the end of the month. So we just cast that broad net to see if there were any one out there who's interested in a public-private partnership. I thought it was a little, it could be a little, it could hamper our process if we're having public discussions on a second path while we were trying to entertain developers in that 30-day process. Hey, would you be interested in doing the docks, or, or the recreational center, or the, the parking garage, or whatever it may be. What I don't want to do is, we've already spent a lot of money designing the yacht club. The last thing I want to do, especially when we're only talking 30 days, I don't want to, because we got to pay these different organizations, to do this second path that you talked about, this parallel path. That's not something that's free. We have to pay our engineers or organizations that are running this, this project and this process. So what I don't want to do is to pay more money for something that could change in 30 days. We may have somebody who walks through the door and says, hey, I'll do the docks. Well, we already know that's about a $12 million savings for us, and we'll have to see what exactly they want. So if that's the case, let's just take that off the table, and then we can focus on the other pieces of the project and see what exactly we're going to do. So I kind of thought it was putting the cart before the horse. Let's wait for the 30 days, see if we get anything. And if we don't, then surely I 100% agree that we have to look at possibly maybe phasing the project, or see how we are going to pay for it, or if we're going to downsize. So, I think once we get this RFI completed here in the next 30 days, we'll have a lot better understanding of the direction that we're going to be going in.
What's your gut feeling? Do you think you're going to get any folks interested?
I could see where a marina could be interested in coming in and doing the docks. I can see that one. I could even see maybe, with the 2-story recreational facility, you may have someone out there that does, like weddings and those type of venues that may be interested with a long-term agreement to come in and build, where they could rent the halls out for a variety of different types of, parties or weddings or whatever the case may be. Parking garage, I'd be a little surprised if someone wanted to come in and just do a parking garage. So that one would surprise me. The other two, I think the docks would be the highest probability, and then maybe the recreational facility would be too, and I'm very doubtful for the parking garage. But we'll keep our minds open and hope for the best.
If let's just say if somebody says they want to be a partner with the rec center, does it become a commercial business then? Then the residents I wasn't here at the time of the old building, but I'm guessing they didn't have to really pay that much for it because it's a park. Right. Now it's partly a commercial business, and they have to make some kind of money at it because they're putting money into it. Does it kind of, the residents now have to pay for something that they didn't have to pay for before? I guess eventually you're going to pay one way or another, whether the city builds it or this commercial entity comes in and helps you out. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, even the old yacht club, the building down there, you had to pay if you wanted to rent it. So it was a minimal fee, but you did have to rent it. So you're going to have the same scenario here. Now, you're going to have a state of the art probably building. It just depends on what we put there, really, what we decide to put there. But it's going to be a newer facility, a better facility. Really depends on the size of the facility. It could cost more to rent it than it did the old building. It probably will. But we just have to wait to see exactly what we're going to build there first.
And after these requests for information all come in, and you guys look at it, then if there's nothing there satisfactory, you'll have to have a come to Jesus meeting, so to speak, and decide how much money you're going to put into it. I mean, and I'm guessing that's going to happen in the next few months. You'll have these things in soon. You'll get a chance to look at them. Everybody's asking about this and they want to see something, and then you have to decide, right, how much and how you're going to pay for it.
Exactly. I mean, most of this is probably going to be debt generated, and I guess I'm looking at the bigger picture, not only whatever type of debt we're going to need for the yacht club, but we have a variety of other needs out there as well. We got an emergency operations center that we've got about 50% of that paid for in appropriations. We've gotten about 18 million, but we know that's about a $36 million construction project. We have a fleet facility building, and 3 or 4 other large projects that we know we're going to have to pay for. So, to me, I'm looking at the bigger picture as far as the debt. How much debt are we going to have to take on? And that could really, for me, make my decision easier because there's only so much money that we can borrow. So that could mean that we have to downsize, the yacht club area. We'll just have to wait and see. So I'm looking at the big picture. I'm looking at the next 5 years, what type of projects that we may have to pay for with debt, and what that looks like, and what the ratio between our monies that we bring in, our revenues versus our debt ratio, to make sure that we keep that in line, so we keep our bond ratings as good as they are. So, there's a lot more variables in this when you're talking about the yacht club, the dollar amount for the yacht club. So that's what I'm personally looking at.
How much are you willing to put into debt for the yacht club?
Well, to me, it's more the bigger picture, not necessarily just a yacht club. Because I can sit here and say, hey, I'll put $100 million in the yacht club. But when I look at the next 5-year forecast of what we got to build and the needs of the city, and what some of it may be debt, we'll have to use debt in order to pay for it, that could bring that dollar amount down. So I'm looking at the big picture, not just I'm not getting tunnel vision just on the yacht club. To me, you got to look at the whole debt ratio and see where we are as a city.
Lastly, on the yacht club, when will a decision be made on what will be done? If you could pick a date as you see this thing start to come to a conclusion with the RFIs, when people feel like, all right, we're making a decision, they've made a decision, now we're just going to live with it.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see is we'll get this RFI out of the way, and then that staff will bring that back to us, hopefully sometime in March, probably the latter part of March. Time we get it back then in February, and then they look at it, and then we'll see exactly what we have. If it's something that we want to move forward, then staff will have to try to work up a development agreement and a private-public partnership agreement with them. So that'll take a little bit of time. That's not going to happen overnight. But at least then I think we'll be able to say, all right, if we only have, say, the docks, the scenario is, say, we got a marina that only wants to do the docks. Then we know we had the other 2 components. How are we going to do it? How are we going to pay for it? What's the dollar amount? How much can we actually borrow when we're looking at the big picture? And then we can decide how we have to modify, if any, from there. So hopefully we'll be able to have all those questions. I'd like to see, most of those questions answered here in the next 6 months.
What is your best guess on when you might see a shovel in the ground?
Well, we already know that they'll be starting at any time with the, with the seawall removal and replacement and removing of the docks. That's already been approved. We've already funded it. We've given the final notice of commencement last week. So that should be starting any day. One of the things that I didn't mention, if need be, one of the discussions that I have that I would like to have, if nothing happens with the RFI and nobody comes forward, what I would like to use part of the $29 million for possibly is, we know it was about 11 to 12 million for the docks, is to pay for the docks out of that money.
Okay.
But we have to wait and see what comes back in an RFI. But that's just me personally. One of the things that I would recommend, because we wouldn't have to use debt, because I think it's very important to move that next phase of that project. And I feel that's the next phase. We have to try to get that moved forward. That's the docks and the harbor master building, because they're kind of one and the same. So if we do not get an RFI for that aspect of the projects, I want to be able to look at how can we fund that this year. And that's just one possible way. The other alternative, we're supposed to go in 2 days. We're supposed to go to settlement on the Seven Islands project. We know we're going to have about $16 million there left over once we pay back the water and sewer funds. That's another mechanism that we could use to fund the, docks. So, to me, the next priority are the docks and the one building that we have to build, and the harbor master building. So I'd like to try to make a decision on that here in the next 3 months or so on that, and try to get that moving forward.
That's all good news. Nobody's going to say I'm going to go to the yacht club to hang out on the dock or to go look at the harbor master building. I know I'm kind of being kind of hounding you on this, but in a perfect world, like if you were to look into this crystal ball, when do you think is it even a possibility to put a shovel in the ground for the community center?
Yeah, I mean, we got to, again, it all has to do with funding. It all has to do with the funding. We got to make a decision on the funding. That's the next big hurdle that council finds themselves looking at. And, once the RFIs are completed and we see exactly what we have or what we don't have, then we have to start looking at the dollars and how much we're going to put towards the project. You know as well as I do, if you're going to buy a new car and you got $30,000 to spend, there's no reason to go look at a new Corvette. And so once we apply the dollar amount that we want to spend as a city council, then we'll decide exactly what we're going to put there. And it's as simple as that.
Gotcha. A couple other items. The council member Lehman said there were 3 more public hearings about the golf course coming up at the council meeting the other night. Is that have they been announced yet? I didn't know there were going to be more public meetings.
Yeah, I think there's going to be another public meeting probably sometime in March and April.
Okay.
There'll be a public meeting. We're going to have to draft a master plan and presentation. I think that's going to come back in, April, May. And then right after that, we'll try to come up with a final master plan, for that. So we're going to have some more public meetings, public discussions on that. I'm hoping here, by the latter part of the summer, we'll have a good understanding what we want to put there. And then the next part of that process is looking at the remediation, what we're going to have to do. That all depends on the vision and the master plan on what levels of remediation that we're going to have to meet. So that's the next phase after that.
And is the remediation part of it funded?
No, nothing has been funded to date for that at all yet.
So there's no funding really at all for anything at the golf course?
No.
Okay. Any other park updates? You still feeling good about JC Park and the opening date, and any of the other parks that you ripped through a couple of episodes ago, which I thought was a great update?
Yeah, I mean, JC Park, we're still, on timeline. That contract for substantial completion still runs through, I believe, the middle of April of this year. Tropicana Park. Again, that contract for completion is through April of 2026. So Tropicana Park, without any additional unforeseen circumstances, should be completed by the end of April. And then you have Festival Park. That particular contractor has until June 4th for substantial completion. So, I think April, May, and June, you'll definitely see those parks ribbon cuttings and open to the public. And then Lake Mead, we're still doing our site concept plan. Cost estimates for that project had just come back here last week to staff. Staff is now reviewing those, and they'll bring those back to council here soon. So we'll have some future discussions with Lake Mead. So I think by June here, Lake Mead should be the last project, with our Parks Go bond that's hasn't been completed. So it's good to see all those across the finish line. Some of those projects we changed the scope of work or did phases 1 and 2 at the same time. Some of them took a little longer than others. So it's great to see all those projects completed.
What is the time frame on telling people who submitted for the restaurant at JC Park? What's the process for that to come out publicly?
Yeah, that should come out here probably in the next 30 days. I know that that particular RFP has ended, so staff is reviewing that. Council has not gotten any updates. I do not know how many people even submitted for that particular project. But for argument's sake, say there were 3, staff will look at all 3 of those and make a recommendation and bring it back to council. So we should hopefully here, I'd say within the next month or so, be able to get that information. I'm hoping, and where council can take a look at it and see how we're going to move forward.
Any updates that I forgot to ask about that you have on your list?
I don't think any updates. I think we pretty much, hit all those.
Okay, and you announced your kickoff campaign. Can you tell everybody about that and where it's going to be, when it's going to be? Yeah,
the campaign fundraising kickoff event is tomorrow night at Palmetto Pines Country Club, 5:30 to 7. So if you're interested, more than happy to have you stop by.
All right, Mayor. Well, any other updates? We'll get them from you in 2 weeks on the 23rd, and we'll see you at the COW meeting on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, anytime. Thanks, and have a good evening.
All right, Mayor John Gunter, everybody of Cape Coral. And before we let you all go tonight, I did want to mention that if you saw our Facebook page or the Cape Coral Residents in 2016 page, there's a couple of those. You saw that we shared the GoFundMe account. Ray Schneider was one of the first people that we met. Kim and I met at in Cape Coral at Hooked Island Grill, and he pretty much came to every single show that he could. Almost all the shows since we launched at Hooked Island Grill back in, I think it was September, when actually the mayor was our first guest. He would sit out in the front table with his wife, and very nice, and he made me buy, maybe get shirts printed up with our logo on it because he wanted to wear them. And so he passed away on Saturday of this weekend in Cape Coral. You've probably seen what happened if you follow social media at all. And hopefully you can donate to the GoFundMe to help the family with the funeral expenses. He was a veteran, and we're going to miss him from coming to the show. And hopefully you guys can donate a little bit to help the family out. Thanks to Mayor Gunter for joining us tonight. And we'll see you Friday night once again at Hooked Island Grill, everybody, for our next show. All the details will be coming up on our Facebook page. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye.